Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I have Barbara Wheeler with me today, and we're going to talk books. We're going to talk the House of Representatives. We're going to talk kids. We're going to talk jungles, all kinds of fun stuff. Hi, Barbara. How are you today?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on. I'm so appreciative.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so appreciative. This is so much fun for me. So you wrote a book. It's called Cuahi heesh. Did I say it right?
Said it perfectly. I'm so
Okay,
impressed.
good. I did it before we started rolling. I was good, and I was really confident that I was going to mess it up for this part. So I'm really excited.
Not at all. Well done.
Okay, so what does Kwahili Hish actually mean?
So Kwahili Heesh, translated in Maya Quechua, is Beware the Tiger, which maybe should have been the title of the book with Kwahili Heesh as the subtitle, but the problem with it is that there are no tigers in the Central American jungle. And every big cat that the Mayans would see, they would always just refer to it, translate it as a tiger.
Okay.
So it really is a salutation, Kwahili Heesh, as you're about to leave the house, and beware the tiger, which is just take care, really.
I love that. I'm actually
Yeah,
gonna start using that because I really do
oh,
like it. I'm glad you kept the title as that because I think it makes it really intriguing. I think it
oh,
like gives you pause. It makes you want to check out, what it means, what it is. So I love it.
thank you. I appreciate that. Kind of hard to look up though, because people have no idea how to spell it.
You know what? You're right. I tried to because I wanted to make sure I could pronounce it, and I had a hard time. You have, and you're terrific. You have it sounded out there so that you can say it, but I still was doubting myself. I'm like, no, I'm probably still saying it wrong. Like I'm maybe putting the emphasis wrong, and yeah, it's hard to find, but it's really
Yeah,
cool.
it is. Well, my name, Barbara Wheeler, hopefully people will look there, and
Yes.
that's my one book.
Yeah, absolutely. So now take us back to this book. You wrote this. It's about your time in the Peace Corps.
Mhm.
And this is the part that amazes me because I think of my own kids and their ages and what they've done in life and stuff like that. Not that it's anything bad, but they didn't join the Peace Corps at 22 and go to a jungle, with people who spoke a completely different language. So tell me about that experience.
About leaving and deciding, or about actually the whole thing?
The whole works. Tell me how you decided first off that you were going to do this because that's a huge decision at 22.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot in the book about what, little decisions throughout my whole, grade school and high school life and even college that brought me to that point. I just really wanted to do something. I had that, I got to change the world. I really want to help. But I wanted some adventure and some excitement. So the international thing, I thought, what could I do? What could I do? And I'm really faithful Catholic. All right. I continue to be, but there was that college time where you sort
Sure.
of blend away from it. So I really wanted to, do something internationally. And I went to the Jesuits. I went to Loyola, it's a Jesuit school. I went to the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, and they said, yeah, we have something as a mission, but it's domestic. You have to stay in the United States. And I kind of, walked back to my apartment. I thought, that sounds amazing, but kind of missing that international fun experience. When I got home to my apartment, my roommate had her boyfriend there, and they were arguing about something. And it turns out he had grabbed the Peace Corps packet, the application. And he's like, it's 2 years and it's international. I'm not even sure I want to do it. And I'm like, well, I've got something here that you might be interested. So we swapped packets. And he did end up going into the Jesuit Volunteer Corps in the United States. And I went on to the Peace Corps. So I had to teach. I taught for a year before I left. My mom was, just hoping that I'd change my mind. So I taught for a year, and I got an assignment in Belize, Central America. And once I got there, I loved the country. I thought it was beautiful and wonderful. And I met a great group of people, great volunteers there. And one I clicked really well with is Ellen, who's often mentioned in the book. And she kept on encouraging me, let's go this. We came here for excitement, adventure. Let's take the hardest assignment possible. Let's not, be in a city. Let's not be near Mexico. Let's really go into the deep jungle and work with people, we would have never imagined still live like they do. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so, a little bit of arm twisting from her. a group of us, a small group of us, were chosen to work in the deep jungle of Belize in Mayan villages, very remote and on our own. And, that's kind of how I found myself in a remote Mayan village in Belize, Toledo district of Belize. When people
Wow.
think Belize, yeah, when they think Belize, they're like, really? That must have been really hard. Did you scuba dive? Yes. Did you
That's
snorkel?
funny.
Yes. Did but
Yes.
that was the vacation spots. We didn't really have any luxuries. We didn't have running water. We didn't have electricity. It was a big adjustment, and certainly one that I didn't realize, every decision, brought me to that place, but I'm sure glad I did.
That's incredible. So now I have to show my ignorance here. They speak Spanish or
No, Belize is an English-speaking country.
okay.
Kind of a quick history lesson. When Spanish was taking over Central and South America, South America, and Mexico, the British, of course, wanted some part of it. So the Spanish actually gave them this little muddy area which they called, it was British Honduras up until I think 1981.
Okay.
So at that point, when they made their treaty, Spain made their treaty hundreds of years ago, they said, okay, you can have it up to a certain point, England, but at a certain point, it's going to become part of Guatemala. And if you look at maps in Guatemala, Guatemala actually includes Belize.
Okay.
So that's why there's a British Defense Force that still remains in Belize, just in case the Guatemalans decide they want back their land. So
Wow.
it's a very fascinating area. And there were the indigenous people, the Mayans that lived there, different Mayans, Maya Mopan, Maya Quechua. You have a Creole, you have Mestizo, you have Indian, Asian Indian, and you have a very strong Hispanic, coming from Mexico. It's bordered by Mexico and Guatemala as well.
Right. Okay.
So diverse and so interesting.
That's amazing. And how were they receptive to you guys coming in there and doing your thing, or were they not so enthusiastic? What was their take on you?
The whole country was, they were used to having volunteers from the Peace Corps.
Okay.
It was a very safe area for Peace Corps to bring, send people. And so the whole country, they wouldn't really know us by name, but we looked more American than anything else. So they would just scream out, "Hey, Peace Corps," without saying
Yeah.
"Hey, Peace Corps," without saying the S or emphasis. So they would just call us out for that. So they were very happy to have us
Nice.
in the whole country. And then in the Mayan villages, they treated us like family. They really did. They didn't expect anything from us. They didn't, they didn't want us to be a funnel of money or anything like that. I think they knew deep down that they were going to teach us a lot more than we had to teach them, which I appreciate. Yeah.
What an incredible culture exchange, really. That's so exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
I was there from 90 to 92. So
wow.
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. I came home back a little bit early. Yeah.
Wow.
It really was, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Would you do it again all over?
You mean as a 20-year-old, a 22-year-old? Yes.
That was initially what I was thinking, but yeah. Would you go back there now, like this point in life? Would you want to go back and spend time there? It's hard because there's kids and all that.
Yeah.
But
Yes. And my husband and I talk about doing some kind of mission. I don't know whether I do it with the United States Peace Corps, but we would definitely do it together. Like I said, there was a group of us. It started off with 50 volunteers leaving for Belize, although not all 50 made it to the actual country. And it slowly, the number sort of dwindled as the years went on. But the people who had the most remarkable time and weren't homesick and weren't feeling just sad, or missing anything, were the married couples that joined the Peace Corps. And right. young, old, middle-aged, it didn't matter. When they were together, their family was with them, not that they're children, of course, but but they were together and they were enjoying every minute of it together. So yeah, I would go back, and my husband, we would do something like that, because it is exciting, it's adventurous, and you want to be able to give, but oftentimes in those cases you find that you're the one receiving the reward,
Sure.
because like you said, the cultural exchange and just the goodness of people around the world. So
Yeah, it's a little bit different than sitting on social media and having nameless, faceless people, arguing about everything under the sun, right?
absolutely,
Totally
absolutely.
different experience. Yeah.
Total different experience. One of the things that I love most, I don't think, from what I can see, I have not been back, but what I can see is things still haven't changed all that much in the remote villages. Belize itself has changed. Toledo district has changed. Many of the areas in Belize have changed, but not the Mayan villages in many cases, especially the remote ones. They're still without running water. They're still without electricity. During the dry season, you might be able to get to many of those places with a motorcycle. So the road system hasn't improved, but they're still living and happy, happiest people you'll ever meet, because they have a family and they're not, indulged with all these other things that can drive us crazy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it really is that whole case of the more you have, the less fulfilled you are. And, I think people who do what you do, I think really truly do understand what living a fulfilling life really is. It is being, I caught what you said earlier, you wanted to do something of service, of helping others. And I think that's such a key ingredient to a fulfilled life, really. So I commend you for doing that, and I highly encourage. I've never done it, so I'm vicarious here. So I commend anyone who has done it and who's willing to do it, and I highly encourage it. I think we'd have a lot more fulfilled people in the world who, doing things like that. Really.
Yeah, the volunteers, I still keep in contact with many of them. Sadly, we just lost one of them, unbelievable human being to cancer just recently, which is really hard. Yeah. Brilliant man, Adam Nikoloff. And but he continued, as many of them do, just constantly giving in service here in the United States, in his town, in his state. So
I'm so sorry for the loss. That's very sad.
yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah. Now tell me at what point, or maybe we're thinking of it all along, but at what point did you decide to write a book about your experiences there?
So when I returned home, I taught middle school, and, kind of a tricky age, but I could always catch them. Well, I guess I must have thought of it before, because I kept all my letters that I received, and I told my family and friends, keep all the letters just in case someday I write a book. So it was always in the back of my head. And when I started teaching, I would tell these stories, and the kids would just be like, their jaw drops. Now, this is not a middle school or high school book. There are some things that are a little bit of, a little racy, so I wouldn't recommend it for that age. But
Right.
Some of the stories, were just gross enough or a little dangerous, and just enough suspense that they just were like, tell us another one. And I love that response. So I constantly was telling these stories to these kids. So, the vivid memories of them, exact details. And I didn't really have to exaggerate that much, because it was insane, some of the stories. So I left teaching for a little bit. And then when we moved to Arizona, that was in Illinois. When we moved back to Arizona, I'm like, you know what, I really do love students. I love teaching. I went back to teaching. And this time it was for fifth graders. And I, with a little bit, removing some of the details, I told them the stories too. And their response was like, are you kidding me? They were just gobbling the stories up. And when COVID hit, as a teacher, they were like, everybody just go home and teach online. And like, nobody knew what to do. So we had a March, a really rainy, cold March spring break right before they shut us all down. And I thought, what am I going to do? I'm in Arizona and it's raining. This is so strange. So I just started writing. And then when they just shut us all down and we couldn't go anywhere or do anything, I just kept writing. And, summer was kind of the same thing. I just kept writing, and I'd share some of the stories with my family, who's heard many of the stories. Many. But they were like, wow, this is really good. I'm so glad you're writing. And I have a son, I still have a son. And he kept on saying, Mom, is your book done yet? Mom, is your book? I mean, I couldn't even sit down and watch. He'd be like, Mom, is your book done yet? I'm like, oh, all right. College. So it kept me going. And then I sort of stopped, and my sister came to visit, and I said, would you read this? Would you read this? She is an avid reader, reading constantly, is in, I don't know how many different book clubs. And, she went to her room next morning. She's like, I finished your book. I'm like, what? She's like, I finished it. She said, I love it. And I'm like, you do? Your sister can be, honest.
Yeah, they can either be the meanest or the most polite. It all depends.
Yeah, the constructive criticism, but she doesn't have a mean bone in her body, but she would be honest.
Right.
My oldest sister. And she said, there's just a couple things I would do. And I think she was the one that, told me to put Cuahi, heesh as the title. And I worked on it before she left. And she said, this is awesome. I can't wait till you publish it. And
that's great.
And that, just people encouraging me. And it's not a long book. I think it took her a total of 3 hours to read it because she's such a fast reader, but it's short. It's just, meant to be entertaining and hopefully a little bit reflecting on, your decision, how people get where they are and the decisions they make, and what were some of the things growing up that had an influence on them. Nothing too deep, but hopefully a lot of fun.
Yeah. You never know. That could certainly, I could easily see that inspiring somebody to do something similar, just reading the experiences and your enthusiasm for it and your memories of that, it all shines through that, this was such an amazing experience. And, I'm sure that comes through in the book as well. So you never know, how that can affect somebody. It's the ripples in the pond, right?
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Now, so you did that. You came back home, lived your life, had kids, got married, had kids. Am I crazy to say that you have 5 kids? Is that right? No, that's not. That is right. I am right.
I've got 4 girls and 1 boy. Yeah. Woo!
So you've been a little busy.
A little bit.
A little bit busy raising children, but not too busy to become a member of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Illinois State.
Illinois State. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you weren't too busy to do that. Somehow you managed just to squeeze that in there. What inspired you to do that?
So I was a county board member for my county for 10 years. And what's inspired me there was we were having so much growth in our county at the time. And believe it or not, I'm a bit of an environmentalist. So our groundwater was a major issue, and planning and development was a real focus for me while I was on the county board. And after 10 years, unlike, some of my counterparts, I just said, you know what, it's time for someone else to take a shot at this. This was awesome. I love being on the county board, but I'm done. And so that was part-time. My kids were growing up, and I really enjoyed it, but there's a time when you need to get off and let someone get on, because there's always someone waiting for that other person to not run so that you can run. And it was perfect timing. And then I got a call saying Illinois has redistricted. Would you be interested in running for the state house? And honestly, I never really thought about it. I, brothers who had run or whatever, and it really wasn't on my radar. And I thought, well, let me talk about it with my husband. Let's pray about it. And we did. My husband was like, wow, that's great that they called you and sort of recruited you. And I ran unopposed. It was, made it easy, except for, in Illinois at the time, our primaries were in February and March. So, my biggest issue was getting petitions and putting posts in the ground. And I found, water wasn't really much of an issue Illinois statewide, but education obviously was an issue that was important to me. And criminal justice reform was important to me. And I got heavily involved in the human trafficking issue that was happening as all over the country, but in specific areas, especially in Chicago. And I got on the board of a wonderful program that's national. It's called Refuge for Women. So I really kind of found my areas where I felt passionate about. And my kids at the time were still, some of them were in high school, some of them were in college. And my mom around the same time needed to move in with us. And although she wasn't as mobile as she had been, just her always being there, because I would have to travel to Springfield and be gone. My husband, traveled some for his work. So she was always home with them, a constant person home with them.
That's so perfect.
Everything just sort of lined up and was in a, perfect. So the timing was right. And then I lost my mom, and that was really hard. So
yes,
that was when we said, I'm done. We're moving to Arizona. Winter, no more. So
yes.
yeah. So.
Oh, I totally understand that. And so sorry for the loss of your mom. What a tremendous gift to have had her there with you like that, and your kids. It's just amazing and beautiful, really. And you, that was for 6 years, right? You were, yeah, you put in your time for sure. Cause it's not a fun, I mean, for some people it's fun. To me, it does not sound fun because it sounds very, I don't know, contentious all the time, dealing with those opposing viewpoints and the mechanics of all of that. So I commend you again for being a part of that world for sure.
It was exciting and fun. And it was, you're meeting amazing, interesting people from all walks of life in the state of Illinois. But I was a Republican. I still am a Republican. And I realized very quickly the game's rigged. The game's rigged.
Yes.
And no matter what you did, and at the time, the Speaker of the House was Mike Madigan. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, but he was in charge of the game. So I didn't as fun and exciting as it was also a game. I was like, the game's rigged, and no matter what I do,
right,
it's not rigged in our favor. So
yeah.
It was very frustrating at times.
Yes, yes. I imagine very easily how frustrating that had to have been. And of course, this still goes on today, maybe even more so than ever. I don't even know if that's fair to say, but I guess maybe the rest of us are a little bit more aware of it than maybe we were once upon a time. But yeah, it's a crazy world for sure, politics.
It is. And the county board, it wasn't like that. You debated, and it was a free place to just put your vote out there. And if you won, great. And if you didn't, there's another, battle the next week.
Right.
State, it wasn't like that. It was like, you will lose, but thanks for coming.
Yeah. But thank you anyway.
Someone has to fill that seat. So we're glad it's you. You're delightful. But I will say this, one of the best parts of my cousin, Ann Williams, is a state rep there, and she is a Democrat from the city of Chicago.
Wow.
And, so she and I got to live together, in an apartment when we were down in Springfield, and cool. One of the most delightful, best-hearted Democrats you'll ever meet. So yeah, that was nice. That was pretty neat to be able to share that time with her as well.
Very, very cool. I love that. So are you done with politics? Are you just done with it, you think, or not?
I'm done with politics. I'm teaching kids. I'm a grandmother now. So yeah, I know. I was just gardening today. So I'm done. I'm literally retired from all of that. Although I still enjoy watching it. I still, watching it from the sidelines instead of having this row seat. Absolutely.
Good for you. That is absolutely fantastic. Any plans to write any more books, you think, or was that your one and done?
I have two. I'm one I'm writing and one I'm thinking about. And I just, I like to, in my head, I think this will be fun, and I go and do it. And while I was a state rep, I was also, because I saw Gilmore girls for too long. I remember Bob, you're probably too young for this, but Bob Newhart had like a
Oh yeah.
breakfast in New Hampshire, Vermont,
Yeah.
or whatever. And I always thought, wow, that would be really neat. So one of these hotels near my house, a boutique hotel on, Lake Geneva, had a front desk position. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can get a position. So I worked part-time there. It was so much fun. I know, it was totally ridiculous. It was kind of a far drive, and in the winter it was dangerous, but I loved it.
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
My second book is about how crazy things can get at a hotel. So
I love it.
Some amazing stories. I think every time I worked there, I was able to write a chapter because people are quite fascinating.
Yes, they are. Yes. It's like impossible to run out of material. It really is.
Yes, absolutely. 2 years. I was almost there for 2 years, part-time. Wow. I loved it. And the characters that would come in, and people, when you're not in your own state and you're on vacation, I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen. It's like Vacation Barbie comes out and that's it.
Funny. So, that's fantastic. Oh, I love to hear that there's more stories in there. That's so cool. Well, then we're going to have you come back on again to talk about that book and whatever else comes after that. So I'm trying to get you on the hook for more here.
Love it. Thank you. I'm just so appreciative they have this opportunity. You're so kind to be able to do that and put that out there for other authors, especially without, much of a platform. And you have a huge platform, and doing that for all of us is just really special. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I enjoy the hell out of it for sure. It's a great time for me. And I just love it. I love giving other authors the opportunity. I've always considered myself very, very fortunate with what I get to do. My husband is, not only tolerant, but, encourages all of my wild endeavors. I am literally the person that wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'll start a podcast today. And he's like, okay, dokie. He's like, all right, go for it.
For him. I feel like it sound like they'd get along.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So I figure, in my teeny tiny version, it's not going to Belize, that's for sure. But it's my little teeny tiny way of giving back a tiny bit.
So appreciate it.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Barbara, so much for coming on. I enjoyed this so much, and I really look forward to talking to you again.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.